Hey, what's up, everybody? So, if you've been following, I've done a couple videos, a little bit lengthier, 10, 11 minutes. This one may or may not be that long. Sometimes I say it's not going to be that long, and then it actually is. But today's not a specialty lab. So, we've covered gut labs like the stool analysis, the gut barrier panel for leaky gut syndrome, and then the last video was on an organic acids lab, man, which just will blow your mind how much information it can show. I hope you guys watched that and like really took it to heart. Now, today, I'm going to cover something that probably most of you have done on somewhat of a regular basis, maybe annually, and that is blood work. Now, here is the deal. Here is the truth and unfortunate truth is the blood work that most of you all are doing is just scratching the surface. And oftentimes, until things are elevated to a certain level, they just don't tell you anything. They don't tell you any recommendations. A perfect example is fasting glucose, so blood sugar levels, or hemoglobin A1C, which is kind of more of an average of what your blood sugar has been over the last 2 or 3 months. The pre-diabetic levels are 100, okay, for fasting glucose and 5.7 for hemoglobin A1C. I see people with blood work from other docs come in and they're at 5.5, 5.6, or even 5.7. Yes, I've seen it on their hemoglobin A1C, and they haven't been told anything. Hey, no lifestyle changes. Hey, maybe you should think about your nutrition. Hey, your blood glucose, you're almost pre-diabetic. You are pre-diabetic. Okay, fasting glucose, I see all the time in the mid to high 90s. So it hasn't reached that 100 or above, and 120 is actually diabetes type 2. So it's like, what's going on? Well, number one, this is what functional medicine's about, right? Traditional medicine has times and places and life-saving, of course, in so many instances, but a lot of medical providers just, they don't maybe have the time or maybe even the knowledge to tell you what to do. Okay, to help yourself become healthy. So we want to prevent those numbers from getting too high if they're already kind of creeping up there. So that's number one, is I see these normal markers, things that are normal, okay, on your traditional blood work that really aren't normal, or they're getting really dangerously close to not being normal. And you can do so much. Like, why wait until something's a problem? Like, can you see? I'm a little passionate about it. I'm probably going to step on some toes, but that's okay because it's just the truth, guys. Like, why wait until you have a problem before you do something about it? Like, so that's one example. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen here with you guys so you can kind of see what's going on with this specific lab work. Now, blood work that I run on people, it can vary person to person. It's not always exactly the same thing, okay? So I hope you can see my screen. Let's do that. I think it's going to be better. There we go. Okay. So first and foremost, you're going to see things on here. I'm going to point some things out that are not routinely done in maybe a traditional medical office that really would be wise to do. Okay, so you could ask your physicians. Obviously, you can come to me and we're going to do some more in-depth analysis. So you see at the very top, this person had abnormal vitamin B12 levels. Now, abnormally high. So a lot of people have low or deficient vitamin B12. Now, here's the crazy thing about high vitamin B12. This is actually getting to the levels of what we call a functional B12 deficiency. Yes, I said deficiency. So vitamin B12 is very high in the blood. So either this person is getting way too much vitamin B12, maybe they're supplementing and megadosing, which is usually not the case, but I have seen it before in people, or a functional B12 deficiency actually means that your body is not methylating the B12, which it needs to do to make it active and usable, and or it's not getting into the cells or the places that it needs to be to do its work. So it just stays floating around in the blood and it's too high. That's a big issue, guys. It's a big issue. So whether vitamin B12 is too low or vitamin B12 is too high, that's an example of the depth that we get to. HSCRP, a lot of times is run in traditional practices, but I do see a lot of people who don't. It's an inflammatory marker. So if you have a lot of inflammation in your body, like this person does, we're going to see abnormally high levels. Then we get to a lot of times, not on everybody, I run thyroid panels that are comprehensive. So the traditional labs that I get from people's doctors and even specialists will have TSH, and T4, and sometimes T3. but not all the time. That is still, guys, it's not showing the whole picture. So you can see on this thyroid panel, and this is not expensive. Like for $46, you can get a comprehensive panel done, which includes not only T4, T3, but what's called reverse T3. Okay. And then also the two main antibodies, so anti-TG and anti-TPO, to know if there's an autoimmune issue starting to brew inside of you or whether it's already full blown. So a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. Maybe you've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, or maybe you're suspecting that your thyroid isn't working properly. What we want to do ideally is run these panels and catch it before it's at the autoimmune level. So if we see abnormal markers between T3, T4, TSH, and reverse T3, we can do a lot of good before you get to that high antibody level. And I've seen it and done it myself with patients where antibodies are really high and we actually get them to come down by supporting the body naturally and looking at the whole picture, okay, and not just throwing necessarily just a medication at it. Okay. Now, medications, of course, needed, necessary, time and place, person to person. But I'm telling you, there's a lot you can do to limit that. Okay. The next thing you're going to see is apolipoprotein evaluation. So ApoA1, ApoB, and LP little a is what it's called. This is a panel that's specifically for cardiovascular risk. So if you have a history in your family, okay, of heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure, maybe you have some of that going on right now, this is the panel you want to have done. Now, here's another crazy thing. The Cleveland Heart Clinic, one of the premier heart clinics and cardiovascular clinics in the country, has literally said, and it wasn't like yesterday, for a while, that this profile right here, these three markers are more indicative of cardiovascular risk than a lipid panel, which is being done on everybody. Cholesterol, triglycerides, LDL, HDL, those things, right? Those are still important. We still run those, but this is far more indicative of cardiovascular risk. So you can see this person is not at tremendous risk for that, which is amazing. Now I see these elevated in people all of the time, and we can do so much to get those to come down, and not just depending on just cholesterol. Because again, guys, cholesterol, that's another talk for another time, but it is not the bad guy necessarily. And cholesterol levels can elevate due to other things in the body, other things going on, other dysfunctions going on. A couple things that are not commonly run also is you see this DHEAS. This is something made a lot in the adrenal glands. Okay. So they're on top of your kidneys, and you think about the adrenal glands as, adrenaline, cortisol, which are stress hormones, but it also produces things like DHEA. And also another one that I run a lot on people is called pregnenolone. Now, those two things, DHEA and pregnenolone, are precursors to things like your sex hormones. So they make and kind of go into testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, those kind of things. So if you've just had your hormones run and you're like, oh, I'm low testosterone, or I'm low estrogen or high estrogen, or whatever's going on, right? It still is not telling the whole story. Maybe it's an adrenal gland issue. Maybe you're so stressed out, you're exhausted, you're going through adrenal fatigue, and that's what's causing your hormone issues, but no one's looking at it. Okay, so two easy, cheap tests that we can run to kind of get a picture of what might be going on in your adrenal glands. Ferritin is an iron, kind of goes with iron storage, all that kind of thing. So you see that often. Another one that's not run commonly is called homocysteine. This is another one that we kind of look at for inflammation. If this is really high, there's a lot of inflammatory processes going on in the body, and you just don't see this on blood work. And here is another biggie. Insulin, fasting insulin. I don't remember the last time that I saw someone's blood work from another physician that had fasting insulin on it, and I do not understand why. I just don't understand it. When you're looking at someone's blood sugar regulation, okay, we want insulin in the pancreas to be working properly. And you can see this person, their levels at 5.5, which on this little chart says it's maybe a little bit below optimal, but that's actually doing really good. Okay, so we know that we want fasting insulin to be between 2 and 5 for optimal function. So help regulating the blood sugars and all of the things going on in the body that have to do with that. So if someone has really high, and I've seen fasting insulin levels as high as 30, 40, 50 and above, you are already or becoming insulin resistant. And that is a big deal. And that is something that needs to be caught and addressed as soon as possible, ASAP. Okay. On the other hand, if you have tanked out fasting insulin, like really low insulin levels, that could also be insulin resistance. Maybe it was elevated in the past, but you've been going through this for so long now that your pancreas has literally just kind of given up. It's just given up. It's not even producing insulin anymore. Okay. That is another type of insulin resistance that we need to catch and address now, like meow, right now. Okay. So remember that, consider that. Have these labs run. Another one that is, I think everybody knows what vitamin D is, but why isn't it being run as a routine panel? You can get it done very cheaply, $20 or less. And sometimes I do see vitamin D on people's blood work, but here's even when they've had it done, the quote unquote normal is 30 or above. So down at 30, we know that that is not optimal. We like to see in functional medicine, we like to see vitamin D more in the 60 to 70, maybe even 80 range. Okay. And here's the other snippet and tidbit thing to plug away in the back of your brain about vitamin D. I like to run vitamin D on people 3 to 4 times a year. Okay. We don't have to do the whole comprehensive blood panel 4 times a year. I do on a lot of people, believe me, I do on a lot of people to check progress, but vitamin D specifically, changing of the season. So right now we're getting into sunnier season, the summer, spring and summer months. If we're out in the sun more, we may not need to supplement with vitamin D as much as we do in the fall and winter, kind of the darker months, colder months. Okay. So knowing what your vitamin D levels are every few months, 3 to 4 months through the year is actually really, really beneficial. Okay. So this person at 56 is doing pretty well. We just have them more on a maintenance dose of vitamin D supplementation, and a little bit more than that to get them up into that 60 to 65, 70 range. Okay. And they're going to be getting more sunlight here coming up anyway. And last but not least, again, just an example today, because there are more things that I do on people, of course, in blood work, but an iron panel and a comprehensive iron panel. So kind of similar to the thyroid. A lot of times I'll see blood work that comes in from other docs' offices that's just iron, right? Well, that's only showing a part of the picture. Do you have high iron? Do you have low iron? Well, like what else might be going on? Ferritin has to do with iron as well. So that's another marker we saw above. But then what about transferrin saturation? What about total iron binding capacity? I see people who have low iron, and one of the reasons is not because they're not getting enough. It's because these other things are not functioning correctly. So point is, without going into all the nauseating detail here, is having a comprehensive look at these things in your blood work can be so far superior than just the basic panels that y'all are getting done on an annual basis. So I just hope this means something to some of you. This triggers something in some of you. And I'm going to tell you, honestly, like adults, for sure, I run a lot of these panels on every day, and then even more than what you see here. But even with kids, like I've run blood work on my kids a couple times in the last 6 months to see where they're at with some of these things, to see, are we dosing vitamin D correctly, or are there any inflammatory things going on in their bodies that I need to know about, right? Because they were exposed to mold, for example. So they have had some things, some markers high in their comprehensive metabolic panel, in their CBC. And I didn't even show those today because those are the most common things. CBC with differential, of course, a lot of you will know what that is. And a comprehensive metabolic panel is the CMP. That's going to show like kidney function, liver function. And I'll tell you, those are other examples. Again, I didn't show today, but I see markers on those all the time come in from other places. They've already had this lab work done and they were told everything's fine. They don't feel fine, number one, so there's something else going on. And some of these markers on these that they've been told were normal are just, it's like normal ranges are so hard because some of them are so huge. It's like if you're on the higher end of normal or the lower end of normal, is that normal for you? Or could that be one of the reasons that's contributing to how you're feeling, how you're functioning, and the health struggles that you have? right? So question everything, advocate for yourself. I am here for you to discuss, to talk, to chat. Sign up for a free complimentary call if you have questions about this and just want to learn more about how in the world do we start investigating deeper level, because that is what I do on a daily basis for people, empowering you and educating you so you can take the lead role in you and your family's healthcare and stop leaving it up to other docs that maybe aren't looking at the whole picture, or specifically insurance companies that are not looking out for your health. Okay. Stepping on toes again. Ouch. But it's true. Okay. Stop letting insurance companies dictate your health and what they will pay for. And that's the only thing that you're willing to invest in. Okay. So I hope you all learned something from this one. And shoot, I don't even know what time it is, but I guarantee I probably went over 10 minutes. Shoot, I was going to keep this one shorter. All right, y'all have a great rest of your day. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.